All right, we're getting close to the holiday season. I want to talk about two holiday Grinches that I ran into in years past, both of them at my workplaces. In 2016, I was working at a startup company around the Thanksgiving holiday, and we had a rotation for various bug fix kind of tasks where customers would send in bugs and we have to go through them. And it was we'd all handle that for I think it was a week at a time. It was a rotation of employees. And one day at lunch, one of my colleagues just asked me if I could switch weeks with him, and it's Thanksgiving. He has whatever family event to attend to, which is fine with me. Now the reason I am not happy with that is because he asked me at lunch. I was in a hurry to get to my food. You got to understand, in 2016, I used to have binge eating problems, and so I really didn't give a lot of attention to thinking about it. I just knew that I wouldn't be away at Thanksgiving, and I switched it with him without even much thought. And it was only later did I discover that Thanksgiving week was the toughest week of doing that. And after he came back from his vacation, I greeted him on the way in, and I told him, do you realize that Thanksgiving week is not exactly easy for this stuff? And he ghosted me. He didn't even want to answer me. And he said, "Oh, I'm busy." And he took a phone call, or he sat down, or whatever the situation. He went to a meeting, and then we never got on good terms again. I mean, granted, the startup company kind of folded not long after that anyway, and it just left a hole in my heart. Had he even just acknowledged it, and maybe did something else in reader. Maybe what I really wanted at the time was to be accepted for being solosexual, right? If he had even just acknowledged something, right? But the fact that he was trying to sneak by asking me at lunch break, like, if I would switch these hours with him, it really hurt. It really did. Okay, fast forward 5 years later. We're in the midst of a great resignation around the time of Thanksgiving 2021. I was working at a tutoring center and also at Startup University, Washington Technology University. They have since closed, unfortunately. But at the tutoring center, a lot of my colleagues checked out around the Thanksgiving holiday, and I was the only one in there. We must have had 10, 12 students at points in the week. It was just my boss and I, and we were all exhausted by the end of each day for I think it was a Saturday, and then a Monday, and a Tuesday, and a Wednesday. Wednesday was Thanksgiving Eve. And so you gotta understand that the reason I would stay behind during a Thanksgiving week like that is because the category of students who will show up on such a week is very different. I sometimes get troublemaker students who just want to, and a lot of times I have to be careful not to get carried away by them. I have autism myself. It's just very tricky to work with them. And so in order to not get distracted myself, I often threaten to take away their reward points. So the students get reward points based on their progress, which they could use to buy candy and buy various toys. And I always threaten to take them away because it helps keep myself in check. Otherwise, I'll tend to misbehave with them, right? But if I'm associating the misbehavior with, I'm going to rip up your reward points, it kind of keeps myself in check. It's really a coping mechanism for me, more so than a punishment for the students. But anyways, Thanksgiving week, we don't get any of that, except that we get swamped and everybody's great resigning, or maybe not great resigning, but taking a vacation on Thanksgiving. And on Thanksgiving Eve, the last couple of hours were really sparse, and by the last hour I only had one student, but it was the one that I really liked working with. And my boss asked me to leave early. He could handle working with that one student. It really upset me. And then I left, and I headed out to Wallace, Idaho, which is a good 6 hours drive away, to kind of forget about all that. And as I'm in Wallace, and I thought, hey, I better check my pay stub to see if he paid me for that 1 hour, because I really felt he should. First of all, the hours that I did work were much more massive than the hours that we typically get, right, in terms of the students. Granted, I didn't have to deal with behavioral problems, but I left very exhausted every one of those hours. And second of all, I'm the only one who stays behind, right? If I wanted to go to Wallace earlier in that week, I could have done so and only given up a few hours of work, and my boss should have acknowledged that, right? so I get to Wallace and I get paid at the end of November. He sends me the pay stub November 30, and he doesn't pay me for that 1 hour. I'm so upset. I'm so upset. But anyways, if there is a hell, I think these two people deserve to burn in it, because it's one thing to not want to pay for an hour that your employee doesn't work. It's another to be cold-hearted about it. It's one thing to want to switch a task that might be more difficult because you want to take a vacation. It's another to be arrogant about it, right? I would have done both of these things. It's more the communication that bothered me more than anything else.